dear friends. Today, we gather not just for another moment of listening, but for a sacred conversation, a moment to open our hearts to truths that have been quietly waiting within us. Recently, as the world listened with bated breath, Pope Francis, this beacon of humility and wisdom, shared a revelation about Jesus that touched me deeply. He spoke not of grand miracles or thundering judgments, but of Jesus' most silent, most tender gift, presence. The art of simply being fully, authentically, lovingly with those before you. This simple, yet earth-shattering truth leads me to reflect on my own journey as a monk, a seeker, a student of life. You see, when I first stepped into the monastery, I was like many of you, filled with questions, anxieties, ambitions. I thought that life was a ladder to climb, a prize to win, a race against time. But within those stone walls, amidst the simple rituals and quiet prayers, I began to understand something that Pope Francis echoed in his final message. Life isn't about doing. It's about being, not being more impressive, not being more powerful, but simply being more present, more aware, more compassionate. I remember my first year in the monastery. Every morning before sunrise, we would walk barefoot to the gardens, dew clinging to the hem of our robes, the chill waking us more deeply than any loud bell. There was an old monk, Brother Matteo, whose hands were so gnarled with age that even lifting a teacup was a ceremony of reverence. One morning, seeing me rushing through my chores, he chuckled, a dry, crackling sound like leaves underfoot, and said, "Hurry, and you miss heaven's whisper." I laughed politely, not understanding, but over time I saw every hurried moment was a lost opportunity to see the sacred. Think about your own life, dear one. How often are you rushing? Even now, perhaps a part of you is thinking ahead, distracted by the next notification, the next obligation. But what Pope Francis pointed us back to, and what all great teachers point us toward, is the art of returning to the present moment, like a bird returning to its nest, the place where true life is happening, not yesterday, not tomorrow, right here, right now. In those early days, I fought silence, I fought boredom, I fought the ache of loneliness. Yet over time, I began to see silence is not empty, it is full of answers. There's a story I once heard, one that the old monks loved to tell. A young disciple asked his master, "Master, how do I find enlightenment?" The master smiled and said, "Chop wood, carry water." Confused, the disciple pressed on, "And after enlightenment?" The master smiled again, "Chop wood, carry water." You see, enlightenment is not an escape from the everyday. It is learning to be fully alive in the simplest moments. Feeling the grain of the wood in your hands, hearing the splash of water as you carry it, smelling the earth after rain. Life's miracles are not rare, they are simply overlooked. Pope Francis, in his last days, wasn't urging the world to achieve more. He wasn't worried about monuments or medals. He wanted us to come back to love, to the simple presence that Jesus modeled so humbly. Love is not a grand gesture. It's often invisible, unnoticed, a listening ear, a forgiving heart, a steady shoulder beside a weary soul. My beloved friends, ask yourself today, where have I been absent? From my family, from my own soul, and more importantly, how can I begin again? Because every breath you take is an invitation to return. You don't need to fly to a monastery or climb a mountain. Right where you are, you can pause and listen and live. The kingdom of heaven is not somewhere distant, it is within you. And so, we walk together now on this journey of remembering. In the next part of our time together, I will share with you deeper reflections on forgiveness, the tender art that frees not only others but liberates our own hearts. We'll look at how Jesus, even in his last breaths, offered forgiveness to those who hurt him most, and what that means for our lives today. Let us continue, dear one. Our journey is only beginning, dear heart. As we continue our sacred time together, I invite you to breathe deeply. Let the world slow for just a while. Today, let us speak of one of the greatest and most misunderstood gifts we have been given: forgiveness. When Pope Francis spoke about Jesus in his final days, he lingered long on the theme of mercy. He said, Jesus did not die with bitterness in his heart. He died with forgiveness on his lips. My friend, there is no more powerful lesson we could ever carry. I want to share with you a story that has never left me. In my early days as a monk, there was a man who lived in the village below the monastery. His name was Elias. He was known for his anger. Every market day, you could hear him shouting at the merchants, accusing them of cheating. Children would run from him, and even the dogs seemed to cross the street to avoid his heavy footsteps. One bitter winter, Elias lost his only son to sickness, and in his sorrow, his anger grew even heavier, a thick cloak he wore in every interaction. One morning, after years of avoiding the monastery, Elias came up the hill. He stood outside the wooden door for a long time before knocking. When the door opened, there stood Brother Matteo, the same elder who once taught me to slow down and listen for heaven's whisper. Brother Matteo didn't flinch at Elias's scowl. He simply said, "Come in, old friend." And he took Elias's hand as if he were welcoming home a lost brother. Elias sat at the fire, silent for a long time. Finally, with tears leaking from the corners of his eyes, he said, "I have wronged many. I have shouted, I have cursed, and I have forgotten how to love. How can I be forgiven? I do not deserve it." Brother Matteo smiled, his eyes crinkling like old parchment. He answered, "Forgiveness is not something you earn, dear one. It is a gift already waiting for you, if only you will accept it." Isn't that the very heart of Jesus' teaching? As he hung on the cross, he looked at the ones who mocked him, the ones who pierced him, the ones who abandoned him, and still he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Forgiveness is not approval of wrongdoing. It is freedom from the chains of resentment. It is choosing to no longer carry the burning coal that scorches only our own hands. I know, my beloved friend, some wounds seem unforgivable. Some betrayals cut so deep that even breathing can feel painful. But remember, when you refuse forgiveness, it is not the offender you imprison. It is yourself. When you forgive, you say, "I choose peace over poison. I choose freedom over fury. I choose life over lingering death." I invite you now to close your eyes if you feel safe to do so. Picture the person, or perhaps even yourself, whom you find hardest to forgive. See them not as they were at the moment of hurt, but as they were as a child. Innocent, longing to be loved, fumbling through the pains of life just like you, and in your heart, whisper, "I release you. I release myself. We are both free." Even if your mind resists, let your soul plant the first seed. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It is a garden you tend, day by day. Elias wept by the fire that night, and he stayed at the monastery for many weeks, slowly helping in the gardens, repairing broken fences, speaking little but always listening. And in time, a strange thing happened. The villagers, seeing Elias's new gentleness, began to greet him again. The same merchants he once accused invited him for tea. The children, once fearful, now ran to him with flowers clutched in their small hands. Because forgiveness, my dear one, does not just heal the forgiver. It radiates outward, restoring the world one broken heart at a time. So I ask you now, who needs your forgiveness today? A parent, a friend, a stranger, perhaps even yourself? Let forgiveness begin not with grand declarations, but with small mercies, a softened thought, a prayer of release, a willingness to see the humanity behind the hurt. In the next part of our time together, we will explore another sacred invitation: gratitude. How gratitude is not merely feeling thankful when life is easy, but a revolutionary act of love in a world obsessed with more. We will uncover the hidden treasures waiting even in our hardships, and why learning to say thank you in every season might just be the truest path to joy. Stay with me, dear soul. Our journey into the heart of life is just unfolding. Welcome back, dearest soul. As the soft light of our reflection continues to grow, let us now walk together into another sacred space: the practice of gratitude. In the world outside these quiet moments, gratitude is often mistaken for a feeling reserved for moments of abundance, celebrations, rewards, easy victories. But true gratitude, the kind that transforms the heart, is a deeper river. It flows, not only when life is sweet, but also when life is bitter. Background transitions subtly into the soft sound of distant water flowing. I remember a season in my own life when gratitude did not come easily. I had been living in the monastery for nearly a decade. The rhythm of my days was simple: prayer, work, study, silence. And then, one autumn, I fell ill. A strange sickness that left my body weak, my breath short, my steps faltering. I could no longer work alongside my brothers in the gardens or join the long walks we so cherished. For the first time in my life, I felt useless. There were days when I sat by the small window of my cell, watching the leaves fall, feeling anger rise like a storm within me. Why? I asked. Why must I be stripped of the simple joys I loved? Bitterness is a temptation even for those on a spiritual path. But one evening, as twilight painted the sky in soft purples and golds, Brother Mateo came to sit beside me once more. He said nothing for a long while, only sat. Finally, he spoke 3 words that became a lantern in my darkness. "Thank you anyway." I frowned, confused. Thank you? For what? For weakness? For loneliness? Brother Mateo smiled gently and said, "Yes. Thank you for the weakness that teaches you to rely on others. Thank you for the loneliness that deepens your compassion for the forgotten. Thank you for the stillness that allows you to hear the whisper of God you could not hear in your busy days. Thank you anyway." And so, I began my first faltering steps into true gratitude. I began thanking the morning sun even when I could not walk beneath it. I thanked the simple bowl of soup, even when my appetite was poor. I thanked my breath, however shallow. And slowly, the bitterness in my heart softened into peace. True gratitude, beloved one, is not dependent on circumstance. It is the soil in which joy grows, even in the coldest winters of life. When Pope Francis spoke of Jesus' final days, he marveled at how, even in suffering, Jesus gave thanks. Breaking bread with his disciples, knowing betrayal was near, he still lifted the bread and gave thanks. Carrying the cross, bruised and bloodied, he still offered his spirit back to God in trust. Gratitude was his song even in sorrow. Ask yourself today, dear one, what can I say thank you for, even here, even now? Not the easy blessings only, but the hard gifts, the ones wrapped in difficulty, yet containing treasures beyond measure. Gratitude turns what we have into enough. Gratitude transforms pain into compassion. Gratitude shifts loneliness into communion with all living things. Gratitude ultimately opens the eyes of the soul to recognize that life itself, even in its imperfection, is sacred. So let us begin a practice, simple yet profound, every morning upon waking, before reaching for a phone, before rushing into worries, Simply whisper 3 words. Thank you, life. Even if your heart feels heavy, even if your path feels uncertain, whisper, it's still, for this breath, this day, this chance to love again. My beloved friend, we have journeyed together through presence, through forgiveness, and now through gratitude. These are not just lessons, they are doorways into a life lived not in fear, not in regret, but in fullness. As we draw closer to the end of our time together, there is one final truth I must share with you, a truth that ties all the others together. It is the truth of legacy, how we live not only for ourselves, but for the unseen generations who will walk paths we can only imagine. In our final moments together, let us explore what it truly means to leave behind naught. Dear heart, dear traveler of life, we have journeyed far together today. We have stood still in the sacred space of presence. We have crossed the healing river of forgiveness. We have gathered the golden harvest of gratitude. And now, we arrive at our final resting place in this conversation, the sacred art of legacy. Legacy is not only what we leave behind after we are gone, it is what we leave behind after every interaction, every word, every glance. When Pope Francis spoke about the final legacy of Jesus, he said something so simple, so profound, it still echoes in my soul. Jesus left no riches, no crown, no castle, no monument of stone. He left only love, and love was enough to change the world. My beloved one, consider this. Long after your face has faded from photographs, long after your name is spoken less often, it will be the kindness you offered, the forgiveness you extended, the gratitude you lived. These will echo beyond your lifetime. You may never know whose life you changed by smiling at them when they were about to give up. You may never know whose burden became lighter because you forgave without demanding repayment. You may never know whose spirit lifted because they saw you live with humble gratitude even when life was hard. The small acts, so small they seem invisible, are often the greatest legacies. Brother Mateo used to say, "When you walk through the fields, leave a trail of wildflowers behind you, not because you will see them bloom, but because others will." I invite you now to imagine if today were your final day here, what seeds would you plant? What words would you speak? What forgiveness would you finally offer? What love would you leave behind? Legacy is not a grand announcement. It is a silent revolution of kindness, tenderness, and truth lived daily. So let us not wait for some distant day to begin living our legacy. Let us begin now, with the next word we say, with the next hand we hold, with the next breath we cherish. The world does not need more noise. It needs more hearts like yours, soft, yet strong, broken yet beautiful, humble yet radiant. It needs more lives that quietly, steadily love without needing recognition. And so, my dear companion, I leave you with these final blessings. May your presence be a gift to every room you enter. May your forgiveness heal more than just your own wounds. May your gratitude turn ordinary days into holy days. And may your legacy be written not in stone, but in the living hearts of all you touch. I thank you for walking this part of your journey with me. You are loved. You are needed. You are a light, even when you cannot see your own glow. Go gently, dear soul. Go with grace. Go with love. In this rare and soul-stirring conversation, a humble monk shares profound life lessons inspired by the final revelations of Pope Francis about Jesus' true legacy. Through ancient wisdom, moving stories, and tender guidance, you will discover how to live fully in the present, the hidden healing power of forgiveness, the quiet strength of everyday gratitude, the secret of building a true, lasting legacy. Take a deep breath, slow down and join us on a sacred journey into presence, peace, and purpose. If this message touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a little more light today. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss another moment of inspiration and calm. You are part of this journey now. Thank you for walking with us. Love, mindfulness, monk wisdom, forgiveness, gratitude.